Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with a quick update for XRP. I do update my Elliott Wave count for Bitcoin every Monday at Pure Elliott Wave. Link is in the description box below. If you want regular weekly analysis of Bitcoin, you can get it by subscription, $50 US a month, and you can get that at Pure Elliott Wave. Let's jump into XRP. I will very quickly look at the full price history at the monthly time frame, just to remind you that I have this wave count, which is very bullish. I've been very bullish on XRP for years, which is why I started buying it back in 2019. From this low to this high, there is a nice looking 5-wave impulse, 1, zigzag for 2, impulse for 3, triangle for 4, impulse for 5, followed by a bear market lasting a couple of years for cycle wave 2. So this is proportional. Cycle wave 1 lasting 42 months, cycle 2 lasting 26 months. When 2 ends, 3 begins. I expect cycle wave 5 is incomplete, and I expect it to move substantially beyond the end of cycle wave 1, far enough to allow then cycle 4 to unfold and remain well above wave 1 price territory. Here's a good example of what I mean. In this impulse, we have primary 1 and 2. Primary 3 moves substantially beyond the end of 1, and primary 4 unfolds, and there's a big gap between primary wave 1 and primary wave 4 price territory. So I expect at a higher degree, a larger fractal, to see a similar situation for cycle wave 3, 4 and 5. Cycle 3, primary 3 and intermediate 3 may only subdivide as impulses. If you know your Elliott Wave degrees, then you'll know that a wave count with a third wave at intermediate, primary and cycle degree is an exceptionally bullish wave count. My target for cycle 3, I'm using 14.72. That is not a Fibonacci ratio. That is this ratio here. That is how long 3 was to 1 here. So it's happened before. It could happen again. If it happens again, then cycle 3 may end about 48.94. I'm using the Fibonacci number sequence to estimate a possible duration for cycle 3. Now, sometimes XRP's waves will exhibit a duration in days, weeks or months that is a Fibonacci number, or very, very close to a Fibonacci number from the Fibonacci number sequence, but it doesn't always happen. So just be aware, this estimation is an estimation. It may not be a Fibonacci anything in length, and so it may not end in March 2028. But if it does last a Fibonacci 8 years, then that may be when it ends. I'm doing the same thing for primary 3. Although it looks like this is probably far too soon, then probably will need to be more time for it to unfold before September this year for the structure to complete. And so if we get to September this year, then I'll look at the next Fibonacci number in the sequence and do a new estimate for you. But this is what I've had for a little while. If primary 3 lasts a Fibonacci 34 months, it may end September this year. And I'm using the same ratio, 14.72, to calculate a target for it, 27.44. Let's take a look at the weekly time frame now, from the low of intermediate 2 within primary 3 within cycle 3. This point down here, so now we're looking at the structure of primary wave 3 within cycle 3, a leading expanding diagonal for intermediate 1, a triple zigzag for intermediate 2, intermediate wave 1 lasted a Fibonacci 34 weeks, intermediate 2 51 weeks, 4 short of a Fibonacci 55. Within intermediate 3, minor 1 and 2 may be complete, minor 1 a decent looking impulse exhibiting properties typical for impulses within cryptocurrencies: 1, time-consuming; 2, 3, brief, relatively brief, shallow; 4, and a short little fifth wave; 2, 12 weeks, 1 short of a Fibonacci 13, and 1, 23 weeks, 2 longer than a Fibonacci 21. So these time estimates, give or take 1, 2, 3, or even 4 either side of those numbers and those estimates. So we'll be looking at a window in time, and around that window, if the structure could be complete there, then that could be when it ends. So possibly primary 3 September this year, give or take another 2, 3 or 4 months after that. So October, November, December this year, possibly could end around about then, about the end of this year. My target for minor 3 is using a Fibonacci ratio 6.854. If it reaches that length to minor wave 1, it may end about 22.29. Let's take a look at the daily time frame now. The high and low of minor wave 1. Actually, I think we're going to go from the low of minor 2 here. Yeah, here's the low of minor 2. So now we're looking at the structure of minor 3. I've got within minor 3, I've got minute 1, 2. Within minute 3, minuet 1, 2. Question mark over whether or not this little pullback here for minuet 2 may be complete. It could be completing as a double zigzag. Now you could label the second zigzag like this. but I think that might be just a bit too brief. It kind of looks okay, so it could be over any day now. I'd look for a bullish candlestick reversal pattern. We might not see that though, so this is what I do to have confidence that this little pullback is complete. I'll try and draw a little channel around it. Not sure about that. Let's do a best fit. Well, let's put it from this high here. I think this channel though might be a bit too steep for reasonable technical significance, but let's have a go and use that channel in the first instance. If we see a full green daily candlestick above and not touching the upper edge of this channel, that would be some reasonable indication that the pullback may be complete and the next move up may be underway. If you see a bullish candlestick reversal pattern off a low, particularly if it has support from volume, then you can have a little bit more confidence that the pullback may be complete. But for the very short term, assume the trend remains the same until proven otherwise. For the very short term, this trend is down, expect more downward movement while price remains within this channel. A breach of the channel would be proven otherwise, and then we may get upward movement. Technically, wave 2 may not move beyond the start of 1 below 1.6120, but I don't think mini wave 2 is going to get very close to that point at all. I think it's going to be complete really quite soon now. Because if this is the right wave count, then we've got a third wave at minuet, minute, minor, intermediate, primary, and cycle degrees. You've got a third wave at 6 degrees, including really big degrees, primary and cycle. We should be starting to see a real increase in upward momentum from XRP. Bitcoin's in a similar situation. The strong upward pull of a huge third wave, the biggest ever that these will ever exhibit, may now be forcing corrections to start to be a bit more brief and shallow than they have been. Let's take a look at some technicals on the daily for XRP. At these highs here, breaking out to new all-time highs, and price did close to new all-time highs on the 21st of July. With this data I've got from Bitstamp, previous all-time highs were 3.32. On the 21st of July, the close was 3.55. So we have seen closes to new all-time highs, but there is some very, very strong resistance in this area, so it is absolutely unsurprising that we are seeing some downward reaction from resistance in the area of about 3.3, 3.4. So about these highs, we have bearish upper wick here, and we have a very strong bearish engulfing candlestick pattern, and these three candlesticks together also make an evening doji star. I'm just going to label the bearish engulfing pattern though, because it is a stronger reversal pattern, and this is so strong it engulfs several previous candlesticks just up to these highs. And now we're seeing some pullback. I would look for support if price does fall a little bit further to 2.70, and below that 2.65. I will expect that area to be quite strong. We had a death cross just before the final low down here, and then we had a strong bullish engulfing candlestick pattern for the 23rd of June, and that had support from volume, so that was a really strong signal that the pullback may well be over. And yes, we did get new all-time highs from XRP. Recently we've had a golden cross, so that portends potentially the likelihood of good things happening in the future, more likely than not. I do use these as a really lagging indicator though. The purple 50-day and the green 200-day moving average are based on averages of past data, and 50 and 200 days are quite a reasonable length of time. So these are very slow to turn around indicators. So they're late confirmatory tools rather than any kind of reasonable signal. As price is falling, volume is declining. Previously, as price rose to close to new all-time highs, volume was very strongly pushing price higher. The volume profile for XRP is extremely bullish, strongly supporting the Elliott Wave count. A very short-term weak bearish signal from on-balance volume suggests we might get a little bit more downward movement for the very short term. And again, while price remains within that channel, on my daily Elliott Wave chart, assume downward trend may well continue until that channel is breached. ADX is declining after previously telling us that the upward trend had reached a very extreme. The ADX line reached above both DX lines and above 50. Now it's declining, so given a very extreme trend, overbought RSI and overbought money flow, it's unsurprising we're seeing some downward movement. Money flow and RSI are back now well within neutral territory, but ADX is still above both DX lines. So if we see a little bit more of a pullback, a little bit more downward movement, that could relieve those short-term extreme conditions and set the stage for the next bullish run for XRP. That's it for me today with an update. I will endeavour, now that I'm back in New Zealand finally with my family and I have my husband's ashes with me, I will endeavour to give you an update I'll try and do this once a week. I have to take my husband's ashes up in Northland in the North Island, where we lived in the surfing community there for several years, and we'll have a traditional surfers paddle out up there. So that'll be happening in a couple of months or so when I have the strength to do that. But for now, I'll just keep him with me, surrounded by the love of my family in his urn there.